You're feeding him that? She was standing in my kitchen at 7:46 in the morning, holding a jar of the organic baby food I'd spent 20 minutes picking out at Whole Foods the night before. She turned it over, read the label like it was a crime scene report, and set it down on the counter with a small, deliberate thud. My name is Linnea Sawyer. I've been married to Mitchell Sawyer for 4 years, and for 4 years his mother, Dolores Sawyer, has made it her personal mission to remind me that nothing I do is good enough. She didn't ring the doorbell that morning. She never did. Mitchell gave her a garage code 3 months after we moved into our house in Overland Park, Kansas. He said it was practical. She lives 12 minutes away. What if there's an emergency? But Dolores doesn't come for emergencies. She comes because she can. That morning, she had already let herself in through the garage, walked through the mudroom, hung up her jacket on the hook she designated as hers. Yes, she labeled it with a small sticker that said D, and made herself a cup of coffee before I even came downstairs. I found her reading a parenting magazine at my kitchen island like she paid the mortgage. I'd been up since 5 with our son, Wyatt. He was 13 months old and teething, which meant no one in the house slept more than 90 minutes at a stretch. My hair was in a knot I hadn't touched since yesterday. I was wearing Mitchell's college sweatshirt with spit up on the shoulder, and there was Dolores in pressed linen pants and a silk blouse smelling like Chanel and Judgment. "You look exhausted," she said. Not with sympathy, with evidence. "I am exhausted," I said. "He was up all night." She sipped her coffee. "When Mitchell was teething, I used frozen washcloths and chamomile." I never looked this. She gestured vaguely at me. Overwhelmed. That word, overwhelmed. She used it like a diagnosis, and she made sure Mitchell heard it every chance she got. Mitchell is a good man. I need to say that because what comes next might make you wonder. He works as a project manager for a commercial construction company, which means early mornings and long days and sometimes a week in Wichita or Topeka when a job site needs him. He loves Wyatt, he loves me. But when it comes to his mother, he has a blind spot the size of the state she raised him in. She means well, Linny. That's just how she is. I heard that sentence so many times it started to sound like a prayer he repeated to keep himself from seeing the truth. The visits started small. The first year of our marriage, she came by maybe once a week. She'd bring a pie or a bag of Mitchell's favorite cookies from the bakery on Metcalf Avenue. She'd stay for an hour, compliment the house, ask about my graphic design business. It felt normal, generous even. I told myself I was lucky. Some women don't get along with their mother-in-law at all. At least mine brings pie. But then Wyatt was born and something shifted. It was subtle at first. She started coming by every other day, then every day. She rearranged my linen closet without asking. She moved the changing station from the nursery to the living room because she said the lighting was better. She signed Wyatt up for a mommy and me class at a rec center across town and signed herself up as the accompanying adult. When I told Mitchell, he laughed. "She's excited. First grandkid. Give her some grace." Grace. I gave her so much grace I ran out of it. Then the comments started migrating from my house to my phone. She created a group chat called Wyatt's Village with Mitchell, her sister, and 2 of her friends, women I'd met once at a baby shower. She posted in it daily, photos she took of Wyatt during her visits, updates on his naps, his meals, his diaper changes, all narrated in first person as if she were his primary caregiver. "Gave our little man his bath today. He loved the lavender soap." Our little man. His bath. She bathed my son without telling me. I texted Mitchell privately. "Did you know your mom gave Wyatt a bath today?" "Yeah, she mentioned it. She said he had sweet potato in his hair. He had sweet potato in his hair because he's a baby, Mitchell. Babies get food in their hair." "Linny, come on. She's helping. She's not helping. She's moving in." He didn't respond. And that silence told me everything. The worst part wasn't the visits or the texts or the group chat. It was the way she talked to other people about me. I found out from my neighbor Heather, who ran into Dolores at a Costco in Lenexa. Heather told me, very carefully, the way a friend tells you something they know will hurt. "Your mother-in-law was telling the woman at the checkout that she basically raises Wyatt. She said you work from home, but she implied that meant you weren't really paying attention." I felt something cold move through my chest. Not anger, something worse. The realization that she wasn't just overstepping. She was narrating a version of my life to the outside world. A version where I was absent, distracted, insufficient, and she was building an audience for it. I tried to talk to Mitchell. I sat him down one Sunday night after Wyatt was asleep and laid it all out. The visits, the group chat, the bath. What Heather told me. I kept my voice even, I didn't cry. I wanted him to hear me like a rational adult, not dismiss me as emotional. He listened, he nodded. And then he said, I think you're reading too much into this. 7 words. That's all it took to make me feel completely alone in my own marriage. After that, I stopped bringing it up. Not because I accepted it, but because I realized that arguing with Mitchell about his mother was like trying to convince someone the weather is bad when they refuse to look out the window. He didn't want to see it. Seeing it would mean doing something about it. And doing something about it would mean confronting the woman who raised him. He wasn't ready for that. I wasn't sure he'd ever be. So I adapted. I locked the door to my home office during her visits. I stopped engaging with the group chat. I created my own routine with Wyatt that I didn't share with her. Tuesday mornings at the library, Thursday afternoons at the park near 95th Street. Little pockets of my life that she couldn't touch. But Dolores noticed the distance, and she didn't like it. The rearranging got worse. One afternoon, I came home from a client meeting to find that she had reorganized my entire pantry. Everything was in labeled containers. She'd thrown away half my spices because they were expired, she said. But some of them I'd bought 2 weeks ago. She'd replaced my coffee with a brand she preferred, and she left a note on the counter. Tried to make this easier for you. You're welcome, as if I'd asked. Another time, I found that she'd gone through my filing cabinet. She said she was looking for Wyatt's immunization records because she wanted to make sure he was on schedule. Those records were in a folder marked Medical Private. She had opened it, pulled out the file, and photographed the pages. I only knew because she texted Mitchell the photos with the message, everything looks fine. Just wanted to double check. Double check. What kind of grandmother double checks immunization records and photographs private medical files? The kind who's building a case. I didn't understand that yet, not fully, but I felt it. The way you feel a storm coming before the sky changes. Something in her behavior had shifted from controlling to strategic. She wasn't just interfering anymore, she was collecting. The breaking point came on a Saturday in October. Mitchell's birthday. I planned a small dinner at our house. His brother's wife, a few friends from work, Dolores. I cooked a brisket, Mitchell's favorite, from a recipe I'd been perfecting for 2 years. I set the table with real plates, candles, the works. Wyatt was in his high chair in a little button-down onesie, looking like the world's smallest dinner guest. Everything was warm. Right. Dolores arrived 40 minutes early. She walked into the kitchen, lifted the lid on the brisket, and said nothing. Then she opened the oven and put in a casserole dish she'd brought from home. What's that? I asked. Mitchell's real favorite. Her voice was light, casual. Like she hadn't just undermined 2 days of my effort in front of the first arriving guests. I didn't say anything. I told myself to let it go. It's his birthday, don't make a scene. But she wasn't done. After dinner, after the cake, after Mitchell opened his presents, Dolores stood up and tapped her wineglass with a butter knife. She liked an audience. She thrived in moments where people were watching. I just want to say something from the heart, she began, and I felt my stomach drop because I'd heard that tone before. That sweet, concerned, devastating tone. She talked about how proud she was of Mitchell, how much she loved Wyatt, how family means showing up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And then she looked at me, and she said, I know things haven't been easy for you, Linnea. Working from home, raising a baby, trying to keep everything together. And I want you to know that I see you. I see how hard it is. And I want this family to talk openly about what kind of support Wyatt really needs. Because at the end of the day, it's about him. It's always about him. It sounded beautiful. If you didn't know her, you'd think she was being generous. But every person at that table heard what she actually said. Linnea can't handle it. Wyatt deserves better. I'm the solution. Mitchell's brother's wife, Kendra, squeezed my hand under the table. Mitchell looked at his plate. Nobody said anything. The silence was its own kind of verdict. That night, after everyone left, I stood at the kitchen sink, washing dishes, and Mitchell came up behind me. He didn't touch me, he just stood there. Mom's coming from a good place, he said. Maybe we should think about her watching Wyatt a few more days a week. Take some pressure off. Take some pressure off. I turned around and looked at him. Pressure from what exactly? He hesitated. From everything. You've seemed stressed. Stressed. There it was again. Her word. In his mouth. I'm not stressed, Mitchell. I'm being undermined. There's a difference. He didn't argue. He didn't agree. He just said, "Let's talk about it tomorrow," and went to bed. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch in the dark living room, my phone in my lap, scrolling through the group chat. Months of messages. Dolores narrating my son's life as if I were a bystander. Photos of my home, commentary on my parenting, and then I found a thread I'd missed. She had texted Mitchell privately, not the group, a link to an article titled, "When a Parent Needs Help, Recognizing the Signs." She added a heart emoji and wrote, "Just thinking about our little family. Our little family." She said it like she was part of the unit, like I was the outsider. I sat there for a long time, staring at that message. And then I opened my laptop and searched for something I never thought I'd need to look up. Grandparent custody rights in the state of Kansas. What I found made my blood go cold. Kansas allows grandparents to petition for visitation rights, and in some cases, custody, if they can demonstrate that the child's home environment is unstable or that the parents are unfit. The standard is the best interests of the child. And building a case for that looks exactly like what Dolores had been doing. Documenting, photographing, narrating, creating a paper trail that showed a struggling mother and an absent father and a devoted grandmother stepping in to fill the gap. She wasn't overbearing, she was preparing. I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking, but something inside me went very still. The kind of still that comes right before you decide to stop being afraid and start being strategic. The next morning, I called my friend Heather and asked her for a recommendation. She gave me the name of a family attorney in Johnson County. I made an appointment for that Thursday. The attorney's name was Mallory Voss. She was in her 50s, direct, no nonsense. I sat in her office and told her everything. The garage code, the visits, the group chat, the immunization photos, the birthday speech, the article about unfit parents. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Has she mentioned custody formally?" "Not yet," I said, "but I think she's building toward it." Mallory nodded slowly. "Then you build faster." She gave me a list: documentation, a pediatric evaluation, a home safety report, proof of stable income and consistent caregiving. She told me to change the garage code, install a doorbell camera, and start logging every unauthorized entry with a timestamp. She told me to stop engaging with the group chat but not leave it. The messages were evidence. She told me to write everything down. Dates, times, exact words. And she told me one more thing that I think about every day. The best defense against someone trying to prove you're a bad mother is being an undeniable one. Not for her. For the record. I went home and I changed the garage code that afternoon. I installed a Ring doorbell and 2 interior cameras, one in the living room, one in the kitchen. I scheduled a wellness checkup for Wyatt with his pediatrician, Dr. Anand, and asked for a written summary of his development. I pulled together my tax returns, my client invoices, my home office schedule. I printed the group chat messages. All of them. 214 pages. And then I did something that even surprised me. I called Dolores and invited her over for the following Tuesday. Just the two of us. Coffee and conversation. Just us? Just us, I said. I think it would be nice to talk. Really talk, she agreed. I could hear the curiosity in her voice. She thought I was surrendering, reaching out, finally admitting I needed her. Tuesday morning. 9:17 a.m. I heard the garage door motor hum. Then stop, then hum again, then stop. The doorbell rang. I opened it. Dolores stood on the porch, purse over her shoulder, looking slightly rattled. "The code didn't work," she said. "Oh, I'm sorry, we updated it. Security thing, you know how it is. Come in." She stepped inside and her eyes went straight to the camera above the front door, then to the one in the living room. She didn't say anything about them, but I watched her register them, file them. The house was spotless. Not because I cleaned for her, but because I'd been cleaning for the record. Every surface organized. Wyatt's play area neat. His snacks prepped in labeled containers on the counter. A printed weekly schedule on the fridge. Library Tuesdays, park Thursdays, music class Fridays. Pediatrician dates highlighted in green. She scanned all of it. I could see her recalculating. I poured her coffee. We sat at the kitchen table. I let her talk first. "I've been worried about you, Linnea," she said, folding her hands. "You've seemed distant lately. Pulling away from the family." I nodded. "I can see why it might feel that way, but I want to show you something." I slid a folder across the table. Inside was Dr. Anand's written evaluation. Wyatt is developing at or above expected milestones in all areas. His home environment is stable, stimulating, and well-maintained. His primary caregiver, his mother, demonstrates consistent engagement and attentiveness. Dolores read it. Her expression didn't change. I also pulled up my laptop and opened a spreadsheet. My client list, my invoices, my income for the past 12 months. I designed branding packages for small businesses. Last year, I brought in $74,000 working from a desk 10 feet from my son's playroom. I didn't show her this to brag. I showed her because she had spent a year telling people I wasn't really working. She looked at the screen, looked at me. I don't understand why you're showing me this, she said. Because I think you've been building a story about me, I said quietly. And I want you to see the real one. Her jaw tightened. Linnea, I don't know what you're. I tapped my phone. The living room TV blinked on. Security footage. Timestamp, dated clear. Dolores letting herself in through the garage. Walking through the house alone. Opening the filing cabinet. Photographing Wyatt's medical records. Going through my closet, rearranging my kitchen drawers. Putting away Mitchell's laundry in our bedroom. Sitting in the nursery rocking chair while Wyatt napped. Footage from a day I thought I'd been alone in the house with my son. Each clip played for 10 seconds. Enough to see, enough to understand. Dolores sat very still. Her coffee was untouched. I've also documented every unannounced visit for the past 5 months, I said, sliding a second folder across the table. Dates times duration, what was said, what was moved. I have screenshots of every message in the group chat. And I have a copy of the article you sent Mitchell about recognizing when a parent needs help. She opened her mouth, then closed it, and then I showed her the last thing. I almost didn't. Part of me wanted to keep it in reserve, but Mallory told me, don't hold back. If you want this to end, she needs to understand exactly what you know. I opened a folder on the laptop, browser history from the family iPad, the one Dolores used when she visited. 2 months ago, she had searched, Grandparent Visitation Rights Kansas, How to Prove Unfit Mother, Emergency Custody Petition Grandchild. The room went dead silent. Mitchell walked in 12 minutes later. I had asked him to come home for an early lunch. He stepped into the kitchen and looked at the TV screen, still frozen on a frame of his mother standing in our bedroom, holding one of my sweaters. What's going on? He said. Dolores recovered faster than I expected. She straightened her back and folded her hands. I have been looking out for my grandson. Any responsible grandmother would do the same. Looking out for him by researching how to take him away from me? I asked. My voice didn't shake. Mitchell turned to her. Mom, what is she talking about? I slid the iPad search history printout across the table. He read it. His face changed. Not all at once, slowly, like watching someone wake up from a dream they didn't know they were having. Mom, he said it softly. Were you actually going to try to take Wyatt? I was protecting him, she whispered. From what? I asked. From a clean house? From a mother who works full-time and takes him to the library every Tuesday and knows every word to every song he loves. From the woman who held him for 6 hours straight when he had croup and didn't sleep for 3 days? What exactly were you protecting him from? She didn't answer. Mitchell sat down. He put both hands flat on the table. Mom, you need to give us the garage code back. I already changed it, I said. He looked at me, then at her, and I watched something break in him and something build at the same time. Like a wall coming down and a fence going up, right there at my kitchen table. You're not going to come here without being invited, he said to her. You're not going to go through our things. You're not going to text me articles about bad parenting. And you are never ever going to look into taking our son from his mother again. Do you understand? Dolores' eyes filled with tears. Real ones, I think. You're choosing her over me. I'm choosing my family, he said. You're welcome in it, but you don't get to run it. She stood up. She picked up her purse. She walked to the front door, and then she stopped, turned, and looked at me with something I had never seen on her face before. Not anger, not hurt. Recognition. She was seeing me clearly for the first time. Not as the woman who took her son, not as the incompetent daughter-in-law, just as a mother who would do anything to keep her child. She left without saying goodbye. I sat at that table for a long time after she left. Mitchell sat with me. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. He reached across the table and put his hand over mine, and for a moment that was enough. The next day, I sent Dolores a letter, not an email, a physical letter on paper in an envelope mailed to her house on Knoll Avenue. It said, Dolores, you are Wyatt's grandmother. That will never change. You are welcome in our home, by invitation, with respect for the boundaries Mitchell and I have set. If those boundaries are violated, I will pursue every legal option available to me, including a formal trespass order and a restraining order if necessary. I don't want that. I want Wyatt to know his grandmother. but I need you to understand that his home, his routine, and his mother are not things you get to override. I hope we can build something better than what we've had, but it starts with you choosing to respect the life Mitchell and I have built, not replace it." She didn't respond for 9 days. I thought maybe she never would. Maybe that was the end of it, the grandmother who faded out of the picture because she couldn't control it. But on the 10th day my doorbell rang. I checked the ring camera. Dolores, standing on the porch holding a small gift bag. No key, no garage code, just the doorbell. I opened the door. She handed me the bag. Inside was a children's book. On the first page she had written in her careful cursive, "For Wyatt, from Grandma, because your mama picks the best stories." She didn't come inside. She said, "I'd like to visit on Saturday if that's okay. Maybe for an hour." I said yes. She turned and walked back to her car, and I stood in the doorway holding that book and I cried. Not because she hurt me. Not because I won. Because for the first time in 4 years she asked. That was 3 months ago. She comes on Saturdays now. She calls before she comes. She brings one thing, a book, a toy, a bag of those animal crackers Wyatt likes from the bakery on Metcalf. She stays for an hour, sometimes 2. She sits on the floor and plays with him, and she doesn't rearrange anything, and she doesn't photograph anything, and she doesn't text Mitchell about what she saw. It isn't perfect. Some Saturdays, I catch hooking at the pantry with that old expression, the one that says she'd organize it differently. Some Saturdays, she makes a comment about Wyatt's jacket being too thin or his lunch being too salty, and I let it pass, not because I'm weak, because I know the difference now between a woman with opinions and a woman with a plan. She doesn't have a plan anymore. She has a standing invitation, and that's all she's going to get. Mitchell and I are still learning. He goes to couples therapy with me on Wednesday evenings, and we're both getting better at saying the hard things before they become impossible things. He told me once in session that he was ashamed he didn't see it sooner. I told him shame wasn't useful, seeing it now was. Wyatt turned 2 last month. He's talking in full sentences now, or at least his version of them. He calls Dolores Gammy, and when she walks through the door on Saturdays, he runs to her with his arms up. She picks him up and her whole face changes, softer, lighter. Like the woman she might have been all along if she hadn't been so afraid of losing her son that she tried to take mine. I keep the cameras. I keep the logs. I keep Mallory Voss's number in my phone. Not because I expect to need them, but because I learned something in those long sleepless months that I'll never unlearn. Trust is a door. You can open it, but you should always know where the lock is. And this house, this kitchen, this hallway, this life I built, is finally completely mine.